Good morning, everyone. We won't be doing that again. Good morning, everyone. This is John Pell with Senior Enrollment Solutions. You're tuned in to week number 2, obtaining and understanding your licenses, states, and contracts. We'll begin in just a few minutes' time. I show it's just about 10 o'clock, so give me about a minute or two as others are logging in, and we'll get started. Good morning. It is 10 o'clock. You are tuned into week number 2 of Senior Enrollment Solutions Roadmap to Your Success, obtaining and understanding your licenses, states, and contracts. Once again, we're holding the 22-week session. Obviously, those of you that are on have the links. These will be recorded. So if you are out in the field and are unable to attend, we'll have these recorded for future emails or sending over the links to YouTube for you as well. So without further ado, it is 10 o'clock. I want to respect your time. Once again, these webinars take or will be hosting for about an hour's time. We will be open for Q&A afterwards. So if you have any specific questions, throw them in the chat box. We'll answer them as quickly as we can, but obviously want to respect everyone's time. So I'll most likely be circling back to any questions after the fact. So around 11 o'clock or when this webinar ends, and those of you that don't have questions can log out. Those of you that do have questions, once again, certainly either put them in the chat box or phone us directly, as we're here 24/7 to assist you. Understanding your obtaining and understanding your licenses, states, and contracts. First and foremost, a little disclaimer. As I mentioned, this is a 22-week roadmap to your success. We're covering everything from Sales 101 to running your business, how to obtain licenses, and really how to set yourself up as a self-employed small business owner. And that's really what you are. We'll go through further in depth in the latter part of June and July, the sales aspect of it all. But the reality is we're all marketers. We market to find consumers. Those consumers then reach out to us for assistance and we get compensated for doing so. This whole roadmap to success should be taking you all the way through that business ownership. And then we'll be discussing specific topics: life insurance, final expense, Medicare supplements, Advantage plans, etc., as once again the summer continues to roll through. Review topics that bring you back to Sales 101, obviously, right? Keep it simple. Don't reinvent the wheel. Work on your business and follow the direction of others who have been there, not others who hope to go there. Obviously, we're going to provide additional time for Q&A, as I mentioned, and allow you to request additional topics or information. So if there's something that we're not covering or you feel as though hasn't been covered yet, certainly let me know those topics and we'll make sure to bring them up in our webinar and put them in our slides as well. Week 1, we went through a few topics: becoming active member in your community, how to go about, once again, basically saying hello to everyone in your community, the donating of your time or your funds, setting up that one-time marketing event that may be behind a baseball diamond or what have you. Continue working through balance of being self-employed. There is a balance, obviously, to remain healthy, to remain active, to remain in your community, but also to be producing business along that time as well, and earning a great income or revenue. Remaining humble, right? No boasting about your accolades, letting others do that for you. Don't brag about your donating or your accomplishments. Don't throw that on your website on how much money you've donated or what have you. It's one thing to have it on LinkedIn or Facebook from time to time, but to actually have that on your websites, just a little too much on the bragging side that most consumers don't wish to see. Mirror and listen to your prospects. We'll get into more of that in the sales side in June. Understanding the 4 types of decision making within your business as well, right? Once you can really dive in and understand what your thought process is, whether or not it's a simple everyday task or something that's going to be implemented within your business that's going to take several hours or hundreds of hours to implement whatever it is that you may wish to implement. Your homework, what you should have accomplished this last week, is to create a calendar, even if it's on a monthly basis. When am I taking any certifications, any necessary requirements, testings, continued education, etc., between now and the end of the year? Any trips that you're thinking of taking should be planned at this point in time. Any additional carriers, states, once again, anything above and beyond your normal routine, let's get it on a calendar. Let's also then put your normal routine on a calendar as well so you can hold yourself accountable. Are you working 40 hours on the phone? Are you out in the community? Have you put up enough marketing pieces or created enough marketing pieces to be able to have yourself out in the community for others to be able to help you or find you for you to help them? Identifying 5 ways to connect with your community. One-time or repetitious events, once again, are you just hosting something at your community center? Or are you purchasing, once again, the backdrop behind the bullpen area of a baseball diamond? Create repetitious marketing, right? Something that you can put up week after week at that Panera Bread, or week after week at that Section 8 housing, or week after week where either you or you're paying someone to remain in front of a consumer's face time and time again. That repetitious marketing certainly comes in handy, as that consumer will then recognize you and begin to build trust in you just simply seeing that repetitious marketing. Implement 2 strategic decisions. Now is the time. Most of you that are on are licensed health and life insurance agents. Now is the time to implement a strategic decision or 2 prior to the AHIP launching at the end of June, certifications launching, marketing launching. Now's the time to really refocus on your business as a whole to implement whatever changes may need to occur. So, on to week number 2. Licenses in health and life. Years ago on my health license, it stated on my license that I was a fiduciary. And obviously, Congress has changed that word of what a fiduciary actually means and who that fiduciary is typically for. And it's mainly for the financial professionals, those that are managing money, if you will, for other individuals, and making sure that those individuals have the consumer's best interests at heart, that they're not just necessarily selling an annuity product to make more commission on that product than another product. They're not steering a consumer, and they're finding a suitable investment for that consumer. The new rule has changed a little bit. It doesn't include health and life insurance agents, but I would implore to you to be a fiduciary, to hold that consultative approach. And by holding that consultative approach, that will allow for you to build more trust with your consumers, obtain more referrals from your consumers, and really continue building your book of business by not just going out and cramming one product down a consumer's throat or one carrier down a consumer's throat. It is important to recognize that although you don't have fiduciary standards through what Congress's eyes are currently, because most of you aren't handling the money marketing side of it all, it is very important that you still hold that approach to remain CMS compliant, to know that you're always taking the consumer's best interest in your mind first and foremost. Your health and life license. Once again, we always have the consumer's best interest in mind, always taking that consultative approach. I don't sit down with consumers and once again bring up any carrier name initially. This isn't the right carrier for you until obviously I get enough homework done and research done to know that I'm once again taking that consultative approach with you and helping you obtain the right coverage for your needs. I'm certainly not selling only what I have. And that's certainly very important to recognize. There are non-commissionable products out there. In certain counties with certain carriers, there are just products that either A, as an agent, you're not contracted or certified to offer. We'll get into that here in a moment. But B, it is taking that consumer's best interest that if you literally let them know, look, I'm not appointed with whatever carrier, or I'm not certified with whatever, or I just simply don't offer that line of coverage, but I'd be happy to guide you because I'm knowledgeable in that product line. Your consumers will build even more trust with you, knowing that you're not getting paid. It doesn't feel good not to get paid for your service, but the referrals that will spawn out of that is really what we should be looking at, is getting into that 6 degrees of separation. Obviously, you can always contract with more carriers, plans for more options. And if you have any questions, visit the SCS agent portal, phone us anytime. We'll walk you through the carrier differences and the nuances with the carriers, whether or not that's a hospital indemnity plan, a Medicare supplemental plan, a Medicare Advantage plan, an annuity, a life insurance, final expense. They all have slightly different products that may or may not suit your consumer's needs better than others. So it would be in your best interest to increase your sales by increasing your portfolio. A lot of agents come to us asking about out-of-state licenses. I have a referral in Ohio. Can I work that referral, and how exactly does that work? So we're going to spend a few minutes discussing those out-of-state licenses and the difference of those states. So recognizing on the Medicare supplemental side, if one carrier had the best rates across the nation, we all understand it would be a monopoly. So some carriers offer certain products in certain states. Some carriers aren't simply licensed or offering business in those states. So recognizing on the med sup side that you may need to appoint with a few carriers or additional carriers if they come up the least expensive, or recognizing if you're offering Medicare Advantage plans, the networks that are in those states, because obviously hospital networks are different, the carrier offerings, which carriers are strong in those states as opposed to others. And once again, we come back to commissionable plans. There are carriers and counties that offer plans that are non-commissionable to you. And it's important for you as an agent to recognize that through this particular carrier, I'm in this county, and what plan should I avoid? The underwriting is very different as well, not only on the Medicare supplemental plans, but they are state specific. We all know that Massachusetts and Minnesota are the two wonky states in the country that have different plans and certainly different underwriting. But the rest of the states are fairly similar, but those underwriting questions do change state to state. So recognize that and make sure that you're always pulling up that particular state's underwriting guide or that particular state's application packet. Your certifications would change as well. The CE credits, your continued education credits. And then obviously on the annuity side, there are state specific, Arizona being one of them, state specific annuity certifications that would need to be completed prior to offering a fixed annuity in another state. So recognizing that if you were to pick up, say, the state of Ohio, there may be 2 or 3 carriers that you may not currently offer in another state. And in doing so, you would need to contract as well as certify for those carriers Or on the Medicare supplemental side, most of the time it's a just-in-time contract, or you would go onto our SES quoting engine, run the rates, and then obtain that contract, and we'd be happy to send you over the application and assist with that consumer completion. Every state has a different cost to obtain their licenses. Some states are very inexpensive. The state of Michigan is $5. Other states are more expensive. The state of Illinois, I believe, is $389. So make sure prior to obtaining an additional state, simply because you have a referral, let's make sure that that referral is solid, that you've already walked through plans, and that you know what you would likely be offering to that consumer. So then we can begin the contracting, the certifications if necessary, and making sure that you're set up appropriately so you don't come back and lose your license through the carrier because you offered coverage prior to being licensed and appointed in that state. Most carriers will also charge an appointment fee. So although you obtained the state of Ohio and you paid the fee to be in and to be a licensed agent in the state of Ohio, in order to obtain a Medicare supplemental contract, those carriers typically have appointment fees on top of the state fees. So once again, prior to being excited per se, or too overly excited about receiving this referral in another state, that's why many agents refer their consumers over to us, and I'll get over into that here in just a moment as well. Once again, if you are receiving a referral in another state, for the Medicare supplemental side, I would suggest that you go into the SES quoting engine. You put in the zip code. This particular zip code's in Colorado. I'm currently in Michigan, so obviously a different state. Put in the consumer's age, their gender, non-tobacco, if there's a household discount, and you'll see that there are very different plans in Colorado as what they are plans here in Michigan, or vice versa in other states as well. So make sure prior to offering coverage that you recognize what you most likely will be offering. I'm most likely offering this consumer either a Royal Arcanum, a Lumico, or a Banker's Fidelity, possibly AARP, but they're 72, and we'll get into the Part B on AARP later on in future webinars. So recognizing that you may not be contracted or appointed with that particular carrier, it's important that we obtain your state license as soon as you receive it, so that way we can begin setting up the process, more importantly, for you to be able to offer an online application. Once again, not every carrier is in every state, and more importantly, not every carrier is competitive in every state. So keep that in mind as you are discussing with your consumers, whatever state you're in. They all have siblings, they all have loved ones that are in other states. Reach out to us here at SES so that way we can walk you through what the state appointment fees are, or the state license fees are, and the carrier appointment fees. So many agents just simply wish to refer consumers to us. There is a referral tab on the SES agent portal. You simply click on the referral tab, you enter your consumer contact information, you enter your agent information, and simply refer that client over. Senior Enrollment Solutions pays $200 for a MedSup referral. Obviously, we need to be able to assist that consumer with coverage, or $100 on Medicare Advantage plan referrals. On life and annuity business, we do split that business at a percentage. So we'd love to help someone in another state with a fixed annuity. We'd love to help someone in another state with a term or a whole life policy. And just simply by referring those consumers to us, let our licensed agents in those states handle that side of the book of business for you. So if you happen to be a property and casualty agent, you happen to be in the corner of Oklahoma and Texas, we can handle obviously both states to assist your consumers if you don't offer that coverage, or if it doesn't make sense to pick up, for instance, the state of Illinois for $400 and then pay an appointment fee. You may not be earning that initially in your commissions, and it may not behoove of you to pick up that additional state because frankly, you'd be losing money. Updating your information. It is incredibly important that at some point in time, homework, obviously, over the next week's time, that you log in to your NIPR website. It's nipr.com. You can either sign in or you may have an account already, but make sure and update any information that may not be correct. Have you moved? It's important to have your updated address. Have you changed your phone number? Because that's obviously very important as well. If anyone needs to make contact with you through the state or compliance wise, did your email address change? This will update your state DIFS, the Department of Financial Services. Are your affiliations up to date? You may have been entered into the NIPR through a previous call center employment that you had, or maybe you were an LOA agent somewhere and they set up an affiliation through the DIFS website. You would want to go in and change that affiliation either to yourself or to Senior Enrollment Solutions or wherever you're currently placing your business. But that affiliation through DIFS is incredibly important. And obviously, you need to complete your continued education. For most states, it's every other year. Once you complete your continued education, mine is due November 1st, 2022. So I've already completed mine, and you technically can complete yours up to 24 months prior to. So the reality is you really only need to complete this once every 4 years. If you complete it for instance, for myself, in November, I can complete the current 2 years due, and I can also then complete the next 2 years that will be coming due. And you can literally get through your continued education once every 4 years' time. It's not a big deal. If you need help accessing this or logging in or questions in regards to who to use for your continued education, there are many different companies. They all sell packages. They're roughly $50 for a package deal, but make sure that you're taking the classes that are within your business. If you're a life and annuity agent, you may not want to take standalone prescription drug plans through Medicare. Or for instance, if you're a long-term care agent, you may not want to be taking fixed annuities or vice versa. So make sure that as you build out those packages, that they are, unless you want to learn additional product lines, which is fine, typically most agents just simply want to get through that continued education to be able to keep their license active. If you do not complete your continued education, the state will take your license. If by chance you happen to be writing business at that time, you're going to have ramifications through the carriers because you're not going to have an updated license due to your continued education. So as most agents, once again, are on the webinar that are health, life, Medicare agents, as the OEP, AEP begins, if you happen to have your continued education due at that time, I would certainly encourage you to get it handled, get it on your calendar prior to the 4th of July, prior to the AHIP launching, basically. Your carrier information is also incredibly important. Some carriers will pull your NIPR on a weekly or a monthly basis to make sure that your state licenses are up to date. Some carriers offer or show your licenses on the carrier portal, which is incredibly convenient, especially for those that are working multiple states or those that are obviously on state lines that requires them to work multiple states. With those carriers, it's incredibly important that annually, if asked, you update your errors and omissions insurance. We keep a file of your E&O on hand, and the carriers will always reach out to top of hierarchy first, your FMO, your NMO, requesting E&O for you. They'll generally CC you on that email. And if we have a copy of your updated E&O, we can take care of that for you with the carrier. But it is incredibly important that if you do receive an email from a carrier, that you're going to supply that carrier the documentation to remain compliant and to remain appointed and licensed with that carrier. Your banking information. We all from time to time change our banks. It is incredibly important that we have an updated copy of your check or your EFT. We will then supply it to the carriers. But if you are being paid directly by the carrier, which I'll go through further with you here in a moment, that you update this information, because obviously it's going to hold up your commissions, or they simply may time out of paying those commissions, or you may simply overlook it. So it's incredibly important that any carrier you're appointed with, that you take the time, you reach out, and you confirm that they have your updated banking information. Obviously, if your address changes, whether or not you open an office and move from residential to business or vice versa, any phone number that the carrier may try and contact you at, as well as your email address. Going through the next slide here in a moment, it is very important that you update all of that information through your FMO or through your NMO, as we will securely house this information and be able to be the conveyor belt for you to provide that information to the carrier if needed or when needed. So by having your contracts with an FMO or NMO, once again, we are basically your administrative office on the back end, which I'll get into here now as well. So many agents are asking two things. First and foremost, what are all these acronyms and what do they mean? And secondly, how do I begin building an agency? I'm really good at sales, and I have colleagues that say, wow, you're amazing at sales. Can I come join you, or can you come run an appointment with me? And in turn, those agents are wanting to get compensated some kind for that time to help their colleagues in the marketplace. So let's begin here. What is an upline? As an FMO, NMO, TMO on this particular screen, that is the top of hierarchy. So basically what that details or means is that the carrier has enough trust within that agency to assist the agents with additional items that an independent agent may need, which I'll discuss with you here in a second. There's obviously production requirements as well as minimum agent requirements. That is what your typical FMO is. Now, in certain states, Michigan specifically, that is very loosely used because of some of the regional carriers at play, not really following national guidelines. We'll get into FMOs, NMOs here further in depth, but just recognize that it's due to having the appropriate compliance and support to the agents. Under your FMO or NMO, typically you would have an SGA, which is a senior general agency. Beneath that would be an MGA. Beneath that would be just a general agency, right? And it really comes down to once again, the level of technology, the level of trust and communication that's being handled between the carrier and the agent. So as I've mentioned many times, we are a partner to the carrier. We help administer the certifications, the contracting, the commissions, the training, sometimes even their call center platforms, etc. But although we're a partner to the carrier, we're an advocate to you as an agent. So really, it just comes down to the size of the agency, the compliance of the agency, and the support that we're providing not only on the carrier aspect, but also on the agent aspect. So how does being self-employed affect you as an agent? We'll get into that here in a second as well. And obviously, I just went through these acronyms. Once again, typically it's the FMO. NMO is top of hierarchy, right? You own that contract with that carrier. They have enough trust in you and faith in your agency, your staff, your technology to be that top of hierarchy, that any FMO that comes in underneath you is going to be supported appropriately, and that you have, once again, the compliance and technology to make sure that we're all working together to grow that particular carrier. Hopefully that makes sense. I know I'm going to have a bunch of questions come out afterwards, specifically for those Michigan agents that are on board on this webinar. So once again, it really comes down to where you're at and how does it affect you? Well, in several aspects. So what really constitutes an FMO? A few things, obviously. One, you have your own letterhead. Let's start with some basics, right? That you have your own marketing, your own letterhead, etc., and it's on your paper, and you're not necessarily stealing it or using another agency's information. You have policies and procedures in place. Very important. If your place catches fire and your office burns down, you better have a backup plan, even for yourself as an independent agent. The legal and the compliance assistance is incredibly important. If you happen to have a compliance issue as an agent, we're here not only on the compliance side to rectify it with the carrier, but we've had many agents get sued, frankly, and we've been there on the legal side to assist in getting that agent through that legal process and using our legal team to support you as an agent. Obviously, you need to have a standalone office, or you should, and you should obviously have staff. So as an FMO standpoint goes, with most of the national carriers, they're expecting that you have at least 15 states that you're working. You have agents within those states that are working with you or for you. You have a standalone office. You have technology in place that's secure, off-site server if necessary, cameras, right, etc. You have a full understanding of CMS compliance, that you're able to inform and teach your agents, your downline agencies to help their agents, or your direct agents, the CMS compliance side of the industry, as well as offering marketing assistance and back office help. That marketing assistance is incredibly important. We are compensated by the carriers, not out of your commission. We're compensated by the carriers to pay for our team members to be licensed, to be knowledgeable, to help you on that back office side and running illustrations or asking about carrier products, providing you state maps or Excel spreadsheets or whatever it is that you may need, application ordering, marketing ordering, whatever it is to help you increase your business, obviously increases our business as well. So the reality is, as an FMO or as an agency, we really work for you as the agent. The marketing assistance, going back to that, the creation of any marketing materials. If you need or wish to have something created, I'm sure we probably already have it created, a trifold, a table tent, a tear off, regards to marketing wise. If you need any assistance and any additional thoughts on that, certainly reach out to us. But this is really what constitutes an FMO. I will tell you that there are FMOs here in Michigan that do not have letterhead even. They literally stamp information on our contracts, which is fine, but that doesn't necessarily constitute or make you an FMO. Even though you may have the title because you're with a regional carrier, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have the title or could even obtain a title with any other carrier outside of that particular state or region. So certainly keep that in mind. Take it always with a grain of salt and understand those policies and procedures and contracts that you may have within that agency. How and who are you receiving compensation from? So let's talk about that for a second. So as a Medicare, health insurance, life insurance agent, if you are paid by your agency, you are classified as a licensed only agent, an LOA agent. When you log into DIFS, this may be shown that you're an LOA agent to this XYZ agency. Understand that they own that book of business. It is not yours. If you are paid by the carrier directly, then you would own your book of business and you are classified as a street level agent, is the terminology behind that. So as an agent, it's important to understand the pros and cons to both. So here's your LOA contract. The positives. With an LOA, there typically is a release policy. It's more stringent, right? You're more or less typically set up as an employee of that organization. Although you may be 1099, you're still treated as an internal representative or an internal employee. So leaving that agency becomes a little stickier when it comes to receiving your renewal business, I will tell you that as an LOA agent, initially in my career, I had to sue the agency I was with. It was $56,000 in attorney fees to obtain the renewals that I had earned because they didn't want to pay them out to me because I was an LOA agent. So watch that. There are pros and cons, obviously, but with you not owning that book of business, it's up to the agency to determine whether or not they wish to pay you that future business. You may or may not know your true commission levels. Some of these agencies pay on QPCs, quality production credits, or whatever their term may be. And you may not know that the commission amount for an MAPD plan is $578 because you're just receiving 3 QPCs that end up going towards this bonus or going towards your salary or whatever it may be. Not that it's bad, not that it's good, but just recognize how you're being compensated as an individual. You may have a 1 or 2 year release policy or a no compete policy. What that means is that if you're no longer working for that agency XYZ, they may not release your contracts with those carriers for up to 2 years' time. They don't want you, A, churning your book of business, because if you were receiving a salary along the way, it's obviously not fair to the agency to lose those funds that they've already prepaid you in the form of a salary while you were going through training or they were paying for state licenses or whatever the case may be. But secondly, you, in essence, become a competitor in the marketplace. And as a competitor, they'd prefer that you just simply exit the marketplace. And some agencies are more lenient than others. But I assure you, if you have a release policy or a no compete policy, it better be in writing. It better be in some kind of contract. Recognize that SCS's release policy is right on the second page of our contract. We do not release during AEP or OEP, but as long as obviously you don't owe us any compensation, we're all adults, right? You have to be 18 to be licensed. So if you do wish to ever be released, we're happy to release you for whatever reason that you may have. Compensation is on one form. It is nice, and our agents that are LOA appreciate that they can have 6 or 7, 8, 12 carriers pay out on one happy Excel spreadsheet for them to reconcile their books. Otherwise, and furthermore, you'd receive 1099, right? That 1099 that you're receiving is going to be paid once again by the agency. So it does streamline your business, but keep in mind there are pros and cons to everything. Your agency contract may provide a successor program. So through SCS, we ask everyone who your beneficiary is, and we set up that successor program, which we'll get into on the 28th webinar in regards to retirement, selling your business, and death. It happens to everyone, right? Hopefully you're retired by then, but life happens. So that successor program is incredibly important. If you are an LOA agent, you do not own your book, and you pass away, is your agency honorable? Are they ethical in paying out any renewals, or do you have a written agreement on that? That, look, if I pass away, you're going to continue to pay my family, right? These renewals are incredibly important, as basically I'm setting up a life insurance policy for my family in the future in the case that I pass away. What happens if the agency that you're LOA to sells? That's a great question. Does your contract change? Are you receiving renewals from the agency that purchased them? What happens if the agency principals retires? I will tell you, there are some old agency principals in this industry, many of whom are on Medicare or even older than that. If they retire, what happens to your book? Are they just going to cut you out? There was recently an agency that had all of their agents LOA. They ended up basically going bust or closing the doors. They kept all their agents renewals, bought a house, bought a car, bought an engagement ring. You do not want to be part of that situation and lose those renewals. So the most important thing is get it in writing and understand and read your contracts, as every agency has some kind of release policy or contract, whether or not you're LOA or street. And more importantly, where do those renewals go to? If does that agency have a successor program? Are they leaving it to their children or their spouse, or what are they doing once they retire? These are all really important questions to ask yourself, and to read that contract that you have through that agency, and to understand how secure is that agency and their business model, as we all have a different business model. So if that agency goes belly up due to a bad business decision and purchasing whatever with their funds, how are you affected as an agent? Street level agent, as I mentioned, you're paid directly by the carrier, and that's how the differentiation occurs, right? Know that you own your book of business. You can sell or transfer that book of business. There are successor programs set up through carriers. We'd be happy to help you through and understand the successor program through each of those carriers. But when you own that book of business, it does allow for you to sell that book if by chance you wish to retire, you become ill or incapacitated, or your spouse does, or life changes and you just want to exit the country and just sell that book. You can sell your book of business. There are companies that will purchase it about 45% of face value, because obviously they're taking the risk of any drop-offs or cancellations, chargebacks, things of that nature. Or you can sell it to another agency or another agent. As long as they're licensed and certified, they can purchase or transfer over that book of business. So as a street level agent or an independent 1099 health life annuity agent, know that you can sell or transfer your book. It's a little more transparent on the carrier compensation. That is obviously set up, your level of compensation set up between you and the agency that you're placing that business with. And you should be running all of your business through an FMO or NMO to obtain the additional support, back office, marketing, co-ops, etc. You should never have that business placed directly with a carrier. Always choose an FMO or NMO, but you can still be paid directly by the carrier and still own your book of business, knowing that your upline is receiving an administrative or override fee for every application or piece of business that you're placing to help support you with that business. You need to reconcile sometimes many 1099s depending on how many carriers you're offering. So for instance, if you're a med sup agent, you may have a dozen carriers. You may also have 3 or 4 dental lines. You may also have long-term care carriers, or maybe some annuity or final expense. So you end up having to reconcile. It's a little more expensive with your CPA to go through all these 1099s that you're receiving and to keep track of your finances as a small business owner. But recognize you are a small business owner, and this is the administrative side that many small business owners don't like to go through. Your renewals and your releases are a little easier to keep and transfer. You're taking your book of business and you're moving it from agency A to agency B because agency B happens to offer a higher commission level. Maybe you get an extra 10 percentage points on that term life policy, and it behooves of you to make more money by placing that business through agency B, and you wish to just simply bow out from agency A. It is easier to transfer and to keep that book of business with you, to move with you as you move through your career, understanding who you'd like to work with or who supports you more, either on the back office or on the marketing side. So there's your pros and cons in regards to LOA or street level agents. A lot of agents come to us once again asking how to create their own agency. What does it entail? I have a lot of friends that come to me and say, hey, can you run an appointment with me? I want to see how you do it, right? You're successful. I'm new in the industry. I met you at an event of some kind or a carrier kickoff, and we have a great personality. I think we can be friends. And I'd love to just be able to piggyback on what you're currently doing because once again, you're successful. Well, obviously, as an agent, that would take time out of your day, gas money to meet them at Panera Bread or whatever the case may be, to then run this appointment and ride along with that agent or support that agent in understanding that carrier's product lines or how to write that business. So there needs to be some kind of compensation, or there should be, if you're taking time out of your day to go support someone else. We'll get into further in June the marketing co-op and the referral program that SCS has, that we do pay out a $100 referral for agents, and then we do pay out a per app on top of that to help support the agents that do wish to become a GA or an agency. However, to really be an agency, a few things need to transpire. One, you have to spend the $25 and get your EIN or TIN number set up through your state. Most states are $25. So now you own ABC Agency. You would then get ABC Agency, a state license, whatever state you're in. You're going to need to pay that additional cost, obviously, to obtain that state license as an agency. I will tell you, some states charge far more for an agency license than just an agent license. So, for instance, I believe West Virginia's $58 for a state license for an agent, but it's $458 for the state license for the agency. Don't quote me on those numbers, but I'm pretty close. That it does cost far more money to set up the agency in that state. You would also need to have agency E&O, that you can put yourself as an agent under the agency to help save funds, but you would need to obtain or inquire and purchase that errors and omissions insurance for your agency. Typically, most agencies have more than 5 or more agents to obtain an override or obtain an administrative fee from the carrier. So most of your national carriers are expecting that you've grown to the point of having 5 agents or more that are licensed, certified, producing agents prior to them recognizing you as a general agency. We're here to help support you. We do bring on a lot of agents that are starting to grow their agency. We set up, in essence, a side deal with you to help support you on the financial side in growing your downline agents prior to you reaching 5 licensed appointed agents, or prior to you having the production requirements or obtaining the E&O, TIN, and state license to be a true agency to receive overrides directly from the carrier, or to set up that true general agency contract with the carriers. So if you are a new agent or a seasoned agent with new agents or colleagues that are looking to leave whatever company and join you because you're successful in what you do, we want to encourage you to help your colleagues. And in doing so, we'll help you on the financial side, not only feeding those agents with leads or marketing, whatever we can do to help support them, but in supporting you for your efforts and your time in growing someone else's career. Reach out to us if you have any questions on any of that. But that is the agency 101 setup of what the requirements would be. As we are discussing out of state licenses, recognize once again that you'll want to review NIPR in regards to the additional costs and necessities of obtaining that agency license in another state. And that's where it begins to become very, very expensive as you set up your agency and then set up additional states. It may not even be necessary. We can always structure something on the back end here through SES to once again help you get compensated for your time and your efforts without you spending thousands or tens of thousands of dollars to set yourself up as an agency. Marketing, co-ops, and bonuses. CMS, and let's specifically discuss the Medicare Advantage plan world. You are unable as a Medicare Advantage plan agent to receive any kickbacks, any bonuses, any incentives, any per app agreement unless you're an agency or have a contract set up as an agency. If you are an independent agent, I would run from any agency that's trying to lure you in by paying you an additional compensation above and beyond that CMS compensation that CMS provides, obviously, on an annual basis. If you have any questions, you can always reach out or go to the CMS website. But I will tell you firsthand that there are some agencies that are under scrutiny at this time for paying out additional incentives to agents for them producing business through that agency. Now, it's okay to receive a marketing co-op. However, that agency should be asking you for any receipts. That agency should be providing you specific contracting information, that there's an agreement on how much is being compensated or paid out. But once again, if you're receiving an incentive or a per app bonus or whatever that agency wants to call it, and they're not obtaining receipts, I would run. Once again, only agencies licensed and appointed may receive overrides or administrative fees. Obviously, as I mentioned, your marketing co-ops are permitted. We love helping agents market themselves. We provide those agents a tremendous amount of money to help them market themselves. So that marketing co-op, we always require receipts. We document it. So that way, if CMS or the Department of Financial Services, your state, comes after you as an agency, we have proof that we're not bonusing you or paying an incentive to you. Watch this gray area, as it may affect you as an agent if you are one of those agents that are placing business through an FMO that is offering those incentives over to you. And as I mentioned, if you are being offered a per app bonus, you need to run. This is an illegal behavior that is not compliant. And as I mentioned, there are several agencies that are under scrutiny with CMS as well as the state for doing so. You can, however, obtain trips and incentives and bonuses, just not on the Medicare Advantage plan or prescription drug plan arena. There are many, many incentives going on right now. We'd be happy to share them with you, but these annuity, life insurance, final expense carriers, specifically the Medicare supplemental side, they all are offering trips. They're all offering incentives. I'll tell you, here in Michigan, I believe if you wrote 5 Royal Arcanums in 2021, there was a $10,000 bonus being paid out. So there's all kinds of incentives and bonuses, etc. SES obviously has our own incentive program where we'll help you market yourself, or we'll simply pay you cash to go market yourself. We need receipts. You can obviously refer consumers over to us, but on the trips and the incentives, unfortunately, with the Medicare Advantage plan world, there are not incentives. This is not an incentivized product. And that's where the marketing co-op from your upline comes into play. If you can bring in another product line, or if you're a med sup agent, you may want to review what the incentives are. Typically, it breaks down to about 100 to 105 apps in a 12-month period. So if you're a producing agent and you're producing that final expense, the life insurance, not to steer anyone into a particular plan, we're going to hold that consultative approach, but you may be working in an area where Transamerica is incredibly competitive, or Royal Arcanum's incredibly competitive, or whoever it may be. They all are offering incentives and bonuses. So reach out to us if you have any questions on a particular carrier or any incentive program. But this is a great way, literally, to tour the world and go on some amazing trips with some amazing people. And so if you have any questions on incentives, on bonuses, once again, on the CMS side, the Medicare Advantage prescription drug, totally separate entity. The life, the final expense, the med subs, they all have bonuses and incentives, many of them going on at this current time. So if you have questions on how do I go to Barbados or Costa Rica or New Jersey? I don't know where some of these, I think one is in New Jersey. Let us know and we'd be able to help you out. How does CMS review or know or find out? Well, there's audits that take place. The state gets involved. The state comes into the agency and they do what's called an FDR review. That FDR review, they want to see the receipts. They want to see the money out, the money in. They want to know your policies and procedures, what's in writing, how are your contracts established. That's how CMS does review and find out. So once again, I beg of you, especially at this point in time, watch where and how you're submitting any marketing co-ops or receiving any additional bonuses on any Medicare Advantage plan, specifically the MAPD contracts or applications. Almost done. Your homework for week 2. We're going to create an Excel spreadsheet. Purchase a program. I believe Dashlane is like $50 a year that stores your login and passwords. If you need the outline of an Excel spreadsheet, we have that for you. You can go in and doctor it. But it's incredibly important that you have all of your logins and your passwords in one convenient location that's secure, preferably not on a sheet of paper, that's able to blow out of your briefcase on a windy day or what have you, right? That we're storing this somewhere in the cloud or someplace secure. We're naming it something that's not obvious so someone can log in and obtain that HIPAA information on any clients that you may have. But you're creating some kind of platform to allow ease for you to log in and ease for you to store your passwords. Make sure that you're including your E&O. Who's your E&O provider? How do you log into their portal to renew your E&O, which needs done obviously on an annual basis? When is the expiration of that E&O? Any state license expirations? Once again, there are carriers that will list all of your states when they expire, et cetera. We'll help you through that, or we'll provide that over to you in an Excel spreadsheet. But make sure that you're really on top of your business as a self-employed individual. Log in to your state DIFS portal. Review when are your CE credits due, and let's make sure that we're not procrastinating that into the meat of the season time, the AEP or OEP season, if you are a Medicare or health agent. Renew your CE credits. Once again, if you have questions on purchasing those packages, let us know. But purchase those credits that are typically easy to get through, or purchase the ones that you're wanting more information on in learning about long-term care or fixed annuities or whatever it may be, but recognize it's going to take you longer to get through. Ensure all of your information is correct through the DIFS portal. Here in Michigan, we call it the LIMRA portal. If you need that particular link or can't find it on Google, reach out to us. But make sure that your address, your phone number, your affiliations are all up to date and correct. Update your information in the NIPR. Once again, this will transfer over to the DIFS portal. And then review any state costs, whether or not it's for you as an agent looking to pick up an additional state due to having a potential referral in that state, or if you're looking to obtain that agency contract and you're looking to obtain additional states, how much is it for that agency contract? And then please get with us so we can talk about any carrier appointment fees on top of that. So these carrier appointment fees are incredibly important to recognize. So that way, once again, if you're planning on writing this Medicare Advantage plan that A, we know it's commissionable in that county, in that state, so you're actually getting paid, and B, that it's worth your while to obtain that state license, pay for the appointment fees if necessary, to pick up that carrier to write that plan. You may find that you only make $180 on the actual sale of the plan itself. You've taken an hour to talk to Joyce and to find the right plan for her. But unfortunately, at that point in time, you just spent $480 to be in Illinois and you lost money. So once again, prior to going down that path, know that there's the referral tab on the SES agent portal. Refer us anyone, any state. We are nationwide. We have licensed agents that aren't going to churn or take your book of business. If it's a PNC or you wrote them a life insurance or something else back in the day, we're going to stay on topic on specifically what that referral is for. So refer them over to us or reach out prior to obtaining any additional state licenses or appointments to make sure that once again, it is worth your while and that you're not losing money by obtaining these additional state licenses or appointments. Oh, that's interesting. Got a picture of this thing. Thank you for attending. We are right on the money. It's taken us an hour. I will leave the lines open. The chat line is open. So if you have any questions, certainly drop us a chat. We're here 24/7 to help you through a text line at 248-270-2887. You can always reach out to Agent Services. Once again, all of our staff are licensed. Most have taken the AHIP. We know what we're doing to help service you on the back end, on that administrative side. If you need applications, if you need marketing, if you need any information from DIFS, how to log in, NIPR, how to log in, you want us to review your LOA contracts or your street level contracts, please send them over to us so we can at least review them with you. So that way you don't get burned down the road or feel as though that you're burned down the road because you had a contract with an agency and that agency either sold, retired, was CMS, failed their FDR review. Make sure that you're protecting yourself and your family. And that's the biggest thing in contracting and being self-employed. However much self-employed you are, receiving 182 1099s or being paid directly by an agency, it's incredibly important to make sure that you're working with that honorable agency. And more importantly, you know their business model on what's going to happen if they do decide to retire, sell, something happens, place burns down, etc. So that's all I have for you this morning. I appreciate you all tuning in. Once again, the chat line is going to remain open for the next hour's time. If you have any questions, shoot us over a chat or reach out to us directly. I'd love to walk you through any questions that you may have in regards to this webinar. As a side note, we are taking next week off. I believe it's a holiday weekend. So next Friday, we're going to be off and then reconvening the week thereafter to go through, I believe, death. One moment. So 422, we'll be discussing death, retirement, your commissions, and further contracting questions, as I know we're going to need to cover some of that this upcoming training as well. So we'll be off next week, 422. We're going to reconvene 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, or when all of these trainings occur or webinars occur. So I'll look forward to having you all on, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you in 2 weeks' time. Enjoy the rest of your morning and reach out if you have any questions.